Hey guys, so I have some free time, so I thought now would be a good time to share the birth story of when I gave birth to baby Crew. Sorry for kind of my parents and the background. Today I have off, so we just have been totally lazy today. But I want to share that with you guys, so I actually have it written down in my notes app. So I haven't been able to share it because up to this point it's been a little bit difficult to talk about, but I'm almost 4 months postpartum, so, and I've been doing really well with his death and everything. So let me pull it up. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm just going to read off of this because I'm not going to remember every detail. So basically I wrote this right after a baby was born, so I kind of am reading it in present tense. Okay. Surro baby is here. He surprised us all with an early appearance at 37 weeks and 2 days on August 5th, 2022. I stood up out of bed to go to the bathroom. It was middle of the night and Amelia was in our bed and my water unexpectedly burst. Funny story about that. I was actually in the bathroom, or I was in bed, and I felt a little bit of wetness and I'm like, great, I peed myself because I'm so pregnant. So I stood up and then, and I was like, oh my God. It was a gush. I could not believe that it was actually happening, especially since I never went into labor naturally and certainly not before my due date. I always was induced and went overdue. I got my husband and we were both in shock and called up our babysitter, which was my mother-in-law, and it was totally crazy, like trying to get her there in time. The dads were still in New York and my doula was out of town. Funny story, my doula was on vacation and I was like, hey, I'm getting closer to my due date. Literally, I texted her the day before. I was like, I'm getting closer to my due date. What's the deal? And she was like, well, I'm out of town, but when you turn 38 weeks, I will be in town so that I can be on call for when you do give birth. But yeah, my water gushed at 5:30 a.m. So I was like calling my mother-in-law, trying to wake everybody up like, hey, it's go time. So we called everyone, including the dads, of course. We had to call them a few times. It was 8:30 in New York, so they were both working. But anyways, we called everyone and headed to the hospital, and everything was a whirlwind from there. Basically, when I went in, I was like, hey, I called you guys earlier, my water broke. And they were like, okay, well, let's get you triaged in the triage room. So I went to the triage room and they were like, let's check if it's your water. And then the nurse didn't even have to like put the swab in. She was like, that's your water. Like, that's definitely your water breaking. So they're like, all right, just wait here, we'll get you a room. And at this point, I'm like kind of crying because the dads can't be there. I wanted them to be there. We had this huge plan. I'm sort of panicking. I'm stressed. I'm like, they're not here. This is so upsetting. And I was just a whole ball of emotions. And it was my first time going into labor naturally, so I was a little scared too. But basically, it took them a while to get me bed because it wasn't planned. So they didn't have a bed ready. So yeah, that was really scary and sad. So anyways, my doula made it with plenty of time, thankfully. She did get there after we were already in the room, but she was there the whole time. She made my birth so much more enjoyable and comfortable, which is true. I highly recommend using one. It's true. That's my third time being in labor, and she gave me strength. Like, I've always felt so strong during my labors, but she gave me even more strength than I knew was possible. And she showed me a lot of new techniques, excuse me, and positions that I hadn't tried before, and it just made my birth so great. I labored naturally for a while. Then around 2:30 p.m. they gave me Pitocin, and I promptly put in the order for an epidural. So as soon as the Pitocin started, I was like, when I sign these forms for Pitocin, I also want to sign the forms for the epidural. I want to go on the anesthesia waiting list now because I know how long it takes. I'm not giving birth with that one. Just before 4 p.m., I felt pressure and alerted my nurse. Her name was Carrie. She checked me and asked me to cough. And okay, let me rewind a little bit. I kept telling them, I'm like, this is my third baby. that I've given birth to. This baby is coming. You guys need to trust me. You know how nurses are. They're like, no. And she checked me, and she asked me to cough, and with wide eyes, like, they went, she instantly said, okay then, I'm setting the room up now. And everybody rushed in. You know how it is, getting everything ready, getting everything set up. And then after 5 contractions, so probably like about 20 pushes, but only 5 contractions, at 4:07 p.m. he was here. He weighed a healthy 7 pounds, 10 ounces, and 20 3/4 inches, which is pretty surprising because he was early. I had no ripping and no stitches. My husband was able to sneak FaceTime dads and grandma while I was in labor, because you know they're okay. Give me 1 second.